Progress.
All right, young scholars, before we jump in and work with our electric car financing app today, I would like to point out that this week, homework assignment number 6 asks you to think in terms of privacy and protection, provide a response on how you would monetize your app once you discovered that you may need to pay out of pocket. Often this is a fairly big cost, security, to avoid issues like hacking and compromising your client's personal information. So just like your previous homework assignments, you're just being asked to write a couple sentence response to this, maybe a paragraph long. But ideally, you want to note that you're maybe liable for issues that your downloaders experience. Your app gets hacked and somebody downloads it and also has the viruses and their phone becomes compromised. They might hold you responsible. So that's why you always want to consider having a security budget in place with your apps. So that is the last homework assignment. And other than that, the only thing left for the course to be completed is going to be your group app and presentation. So you'll notice this week we have 2 class meetings. Next week we have 2 class meetings where we're going to work more on modifying apps. Then you'll have the week off for Thanksgiving. Instead of just having class Monday, I figured give you all a break, have that Monday off, enjoy the entire week. Then we're going to come back that following week after Thanksgiving. And the Monday and Wednesday will be group meetings. So you're going to meet with your group. I'll be available on Zoom if you want to pop in and ask any questions. And then the following week, the 4th and the 6th, will be group presentations. So since we only have 3 groups, I figure we could get all of them done on that Monday, the 12th, the 4th. And that would allow that Wednesday, December 6th, to have some kind of extra credit opportunity available for those that need it. So we're getting into the nitty-gritty here, so keep that in mind as you're doing your work. So today, let's download electric car financing.zip. You'll download the zip folder, extract, and then a regular folder will populate, which you want to open within Android Studio. So while you're downloading and opening and building, I'm going to go ahead and run the app and show you how it kind of looks. And hopefully it runs for us. So what this app is basically set up for is to compute an electric car financing. You're going to borrow money to purchase your electric car. So your first input is number of years. As you'll see with the code momentarily, it's set up to only accept 3, 4, or 5 because there are images associated. So I'll enter 5. Then you'll enter your car loan amount, how much you're going to borrow. So I'll say 25,000. Your interest rate is what you pay each year in interest. So if it's 12%, you would enter in 0.12 to represent the 12%. You'll notice there's a image set up here below and a button that says car payment. And it disappeared on us. But if you were to have clicked that car payment button, it will calculate how much you would pay on that $25,000 loan every month. Okay, let's try this again. Hopefully second time's the charm. So we had 5 years at $25,000 and an interest rate of 12%. And when we select car payment, or click the car payment button rather, our monthly payment on that $25,000 loan is going to be a little under $667. And you'll notice here, one of the images pops up for 5 years. So we have it set where each of those three options you could choose from, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, each has an image associated with it. So if you open your Res Drawable folder, once you've had this build within Android Studio, you'll notice that that image you see on the first screen is called opening. And then each of these selections, whether it's 3, 4, or 5, just has that same image of a car with 3 years, 4 years, or 5 years associated with it. You'll also notice when you check your layout, we have 2 different files. That activity_main is our initial screen where we have all of the information we need to input, our number of years, our amount of the loan, our interest rate, our that initial image called opening, the button that says calculate payment. All of that is identified in activity main here. You'll see here our TV title, which is our electric car financing. You'll see each of the inputs have an edit text view. That hint 1 will tell the user, hey, you can only input 3 years, 4 years, or 5 years. Then the next edit text is for the loan amount. Then the next edit text is for the percentage. Then you have your button that says calculate payment. And then lastly, that image view with that opening.png image that showed up initially. But once you click through everything, you'll notice you have this second window that pops up. So we had to create a second file in order to accommodate that. And that is what that second layout is here, activity_payment.xml. It creates a TV title again, electric car financing. Drops that in a text view. Then it creates a second text view. That second text view is our monthly payment, whatever our result is. And then lastly, you'll see an image view is going to populate that image, whether we chose 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. All of that is determined. So what we're going to do today is play around with this a little, modify it based on our needs. So first I want to start within our strings.xml. So give me a car brand. What kind of car do you guys like driving? Think that's good.
I'll just say Tesla.
Tesla. Okay. So for this TV title, we're going to change that from electric car financing to Tesla finance. Then we're going to sync our project. And now when we run it, instead of electric car financing, it'll say Tesla financing for our TV title, our first text view there. So you see there, our TV title is now Tesla financing. Will we input, let's do it again, 5 years, 25,000 at 12% and click car payments. Our TV title there, Tesla financing, shows up as well. That is a text view setup. But our app name is still electric car finance based on our strings. Do we want to change that? Do we really need to? Tesla makes electric cars, right?
Yeah.
So do we think we need to change that app name display? Electric car financing works, right?
No.
The only other thing we might want to change within our strings is this interest rate. Would you know without me telling you that it has to be in a decimal? Probably not, right? So let's add on to that message that says interest rate and say as a decimal. This way, all of the users are aware that you need to input the interest rate as a decimal. You can't just put in 12 for 12%. You'd have to put in 0.12, as I showed you. So now when we sync and run that, where it said interest rate initially, it will now say interest rate as a decimal. And our text size appears to be too big. So we could go into activity main. And our third I love how this thing goes crazy during class time with my touchpad. We would go in and change that 30 SP to, let's say, 25. And then we would sync. And ideally, the text is now shrunken a little and we can see that whole hint of, hey, we need to put this in as a decimal. Let's see. So right now, the A and the L for decimal are cut off. Let's see what happens with that slight change in the text size from 30 to 25. Nope, it just made it smaller within the window. So we could, instead of saying as a decimal, just go ahead and change that to decimal while putting our size back from 25 back to 30. And if we do that, it'll go back to our same size as our other two. And ideally, it'll just display decimal, and it's all seen on one line. And there you go. So as a decimal didn't fit on the one line, so we just changed it to decimal so that the user, when they're using it, knows the interest rate needs to be put in as a decimal. But this, image, kind of boring, right? So let's go ahead and search for electric car pump station. Let's take an image that we're going to use to replace that open image. So I'm going to call this charge, because technically that's what we're looking to replace here. The kind of fake charging image here. So I downloaded that image charge. And now I have to go into my app folder, source, main, res, excuse me, and drawable. And then I drop it in to that folder. But once I've done that, I now have to go in to my activity main.xml and scroll to the bottom where our image view is. And here I have Android : source equals at drawable opening. So I went and changed saved my image as charge. So we'll change that from opening to charge, whatever specifically you named your image as. I named mine charge because it's going to represent, kind of like a charging station. So once I sync and then run my app, instead of this, fake charging station image, Once it reruns, our new image populates that we've saved and changed it to. So now let's go ahead and find 3 different Tesla, vehicle images to use for our different options. So I'll take the Cybertruck here, the Model S here, and this nice red one here. So that'll be the Cybertruck. This I'll save as Model S. And then this last one I'll just save as red. So the same situation now. I need to take all 3 of those images that I just downloaded, move them in my app folder, source, main, res, drawable, and add them in. But nothing's happened yet. Because now I need to go into my main activity Java file. You'll notice we have 2 different files. Each one associates with each of the different screens. The main activity works with activity underscore main to allow you to input everything you need. Your years, your loan, your interest, your button, etc. So all of these are related to those specific aspects of the first or activity main display. You have years set up to input, loan set up to input, interest set up to input, your button to calculate the payment, and this function happens once you click that button, where integer years is now accepted input, integer loan is now accepted, decimal interest is now accepted. But once you click on that, you'll notice the activity underscore payment.xml creates an image view based on whichever one of those 3 images you have. So right now it's just 3 for 3 years, 4 for 4, 5 for 5. So if you go into the other one that relies on that image or that viewing section, the activity underscore payment, you'll notice that the payment.java file draws on it. So the image view is set up to be whichever one of those views exists. And you'll notice here is where the calculation is being done. So our monthly payment is set to be that loan interest plus the loan interest, the initial loan rather, I'm sorry, So the loan amount you put in, so in the example I've been doing, it's been 25,000 plus that 25,000 times that 12% times that number of years, 5, divided by 12 times that 5 years. The 12 times 5 gives us the number of months, since we're calculating a monthly payment. If we wanted to change that display text from monthly payment, let's say we change it to your monthly payment is. When we calculate here, our 5, 25,000, 12%, where it says monthly payment, it will now say your monthly payment is. Then you'll notice here we have if, else if, else, else. So if they enter a number that isn't 3, 4, or 5, they're going to be prompt a toast message. Enter 3, 4, or 5 years. But if they enter 3, that image 3 is going to show up, where it's just a picture of a car that says 3 years. If they enter 4, that 4 image shows up, where it's just the same image of the car that says 4 years. And the same thing with 5. But those images are, they're exactly the same. They're kind of boring, right? So that's why I downloaded 3 different image types. So here's where we would have to use them. Instead of 3, 4, and 5, we would now put in those 3 images we've saved. So for 3 years, I'll do the Cybertruck image that I downloaded. For 4 years, I'll do the Model S image that I downloaded. And then lastly, for 5 years, I'll do the red image that I downloaded. And once we sync through that, I'll run and go ahead and show you each of the 3 examples. So for 3 years, 20, we'll just use the same numbers otherwise. 25,000 and 12%. When I click the calculate button, that Cybertruck comes up. But then, as you guys have seen, we don't have a back button set up, so I have to run it again to show the next example. So now I'll do 4 years, 25,000, 12%, and it's that Model S. But again, we don't have a back button, so I have to run again. And then when we do 5, that red image will pop. So 5 years, 25,000 again, and calculate. And you noticed, if you've been following the monthly payment, the more years you have, the less money it is. And there's that third image. But again, we have no back button. So every time we want to do it, we have to rerun the app. So in class on Wednesday, that's what I'm going to show you as part of Wednesday's lesson is we're going to have a back button created. I'll show you how to make it in the layout and within the file itself. So if we enter 8 years here, and then 25,000 and 12% interest, when we click our calculate button, we get that error message. Enter 3, 4, or 5 years. And that is what this last else is within the payment function. So again, that payment.java ties with that second display, that activity underscore payment.xml. But this, it doesn't really, help the user out all that much. So maybe we want to change that. What do we want to change that message to say?
Can you repeat that real quick?
Instead of saying enter 3, 4, or 5 years for our message there, what might we want to say instead? Maybe, this app is only set up to calculate for 3, 4, or 5 years. Please enter 3, 4, or 5 years.
Would that fit?
Yep. So we go ahead and we make that big change. We go ahead and sync. Then we go ahead and run. And if I enter 8, it now gives us that big message. This app is only set up to calculate for 3, 4, or 5 years. So please enter 3, 4, or 5 years. So the reason it fits is we have in our activity underscore payment, we've basically set it up here within this second text view, this TV title 2, to basically have a nice little setup here, about 25%, a little more than 25% of the viewing window. Now we have 6 images here. So we could, in theory, go ahead and modify these. So we could say, if int ears equals 1 to display the Cybertruck, else if int ears equals 2, display that Model S. Else if 6 to display that red one. Why did I do 6 there? Any guesses? How come I did 6 for that red instead of 3? Because we're going to use the 3, 4, and 5 we started with initially. So we have 1, 2, then 3, 4, and 5. So then our red is going to be 6. So we're going to copy that else if statement. 1, 2, 3 times. But now we have to change our numbers. So it'll be 3, 4, and 5. Okay. So we change our 3 to 3, our 4 to 4, and our 5 to 5. Let's actually do it this. Create a new else if. And tiers equals 3. Image dot set image resource r dot drawable dot 3, and it with a colon. Then the next else if in tiers equals 4. Image dot set image resource r dot drawable dot 4 colon, and then a last else if in tiers equals 5 with our image dot set image resource r dot drawable dot 5. The way I had copied and pasted, it was giving us error message. And make sure to add that semicolon at the end of each of your image dot set image resource. So now we're using all 6 of these images we have calculated here. So now we need to change our toast message. This app is only set up to calculate for instead of 3, 4, 5 years. Let's say 1 to 6 years. And then we have to change that second part. So please enter, let's say, a number between 1 and 6. So now we file sync. And run. I'm going to put in 8 again, and that message should pop up. This app is only set up to calculate for 1 to 6 years, so please enter a number between 1 and 6. So 8, 25,000, 12%. This app is only set up to calculate for 1 to 6 years, comma, so please enter a number between 1 and 6. And for each one of those calculations, so if you put in 1 year, it would display the Cybertruck and the monthly payment. If you entered 2, it would display the Model S and that monthly payment. If you entered 6, it would display your monthly payment and the red that we created. If you did 3, 4, or 5, it would give that image that we initially started with. That's just the same image for all 3 of them. However, one says 3 years, one says 4 years, one says 5 years. So you would continue to add on to this as you so chose by adding more and more else if functions. So let's say you wanted to add up to 10 years, you would have to have 4 more images downloaded to refer to them. Else if 7 years, 8 years, 9 years, 10 years, etc. So if you wanted to change that initial top display here, electric car financing, you would have to go back in to your strings. So instead of electric car financing, maybe we say, Elon Musk's baby. If we go ahead and sync, and now run, instead of electric car financing, it's going to give us an error because it doesn't understand the apostrophe. So maybe we just say the Elon Musk company instead of Elon Musk's baby. So keep that in mind when you want to display an application there. The Android Studio, you don't see on apps, apostrophes or certain exclamation points, things like that within the title of an app or the header of an app, because a lot of these builders, such as Android Studio, can be a bit finicky. So now when we run the Elon Musk company. Okay, so like I said on Wednesday, within our lesson that we go through, we're going to build or utilize some back buttons. You've seen it's kind of annoying here. We put in our information. We can't go back. There's nothing to go back. So we have to rerun over and over to use these different instances. So on Wednesday, you're going to see a back button here that we're going to create, that when we click it, it will go back to the initial screen here. So we have activity main is our initial screen. That screen that we just were on is the activity underscore payment display screen or layout. So again, as a reminder, due this Sunday is the last homework assignment for the semester, other than that group work that you have to do, creating your app together, setting up your presentation. So as mentioned, it's basically the same as last week's about how you're going to monetize your app. But this time you're worried about, hey, we might need to charge a little bit more in order for to accommodate our security. And again, as I mentioned at the beginning, this week on Wednesday, we'll have another session where we're going to walk through and work on apps together. Same thing for our 2 meetings next week. Then you have that week off. I gave you the Monday off, the week of Thanksgiving, so you can go ahead and enjoy it. And then when we come back after Thanksgiving, I will have Zoom set up on the 27th and 29th that you could pop in and ask questions as you so choose. But ideally, you're going to be working with your group members, meeting with them, whether it be on Zoom yourself or face-to-face, whatever you want to do in order to set up your, ideally by that point, you know what you want to do, and it's just a matter of executing it. And then, like I said, the following week will be presentations. Since there's only 3 groups, we should be able to get all of them done on December 4th, that Monday. So that way, that Wednesday, there will be an extra credit opportunity possible. So some of you did not submit app number 3 for last night. So make sure you get that to me ASAP. That's, 10 points, basically 10% of the final grade. So very important to make sure to get that in and done so it can be graded. Since the Dropbox on Blackboard has been closed, you'll go ahead and email me. Again, it's going to be, what did I have? Just the main activity file? Yes. So you'll go ahead and submit your code from the main activity file and a screenshot of the images of it. I have to say that those that submitted them did an awesome job. There was one that was Pokemon characters. There's one that was, the Office characters. So excellent work for those of you that went ahead and did that. It looked awesome. You're more than welcome, as I've told you throughout the semester so far, to use any and all of the code that we've walked through to help you determine and utilize for your own app that you're going to create. So which folder is it? So it's in the 12.4 and 12.6 folder. So just as a reminder, I'm going to walk through this for the group project. You're going to create an app using Android Studio with you and your group members. I believe each of the groups are 3 people. So each person ideally should be doing 33% of the work. So your app will be scored on using code utilized within the course. So we're going to work on back buttons on Wednesday. Ideally, if you have more than one screen for your app, you're going to want to use that, instead of continually running. Go ahead and click from the second display screen back to the first. 10 points for having a working app. Does it work? Does it build? Does it run? 10 points for being able to clearly identify which group member did which section of the app. So, when you give your presentation, you're going to tell us that. Oh, I did so for example, here, Kesney did the payment.java file. Dwayne did the main activity.java file. You would walk us through that during your presentation. And then the presentation itself, you're all going to be involved, and you're going to tell us about, each part or section you did within that presentation. Now, this should be very easy to do. You're going to be presenting on Zoom. You're just going to be sitting there. There should be no distracting behaviors, swaying your arms, tapping your feet. I always recommend this to everybody when they're presenting, because I've taught business presentation classes before. Instead of, stuff like that, just pause, recollect your thoughts, and go from there. And then lastly, you are able to clearly identify what your app does and why it might be necessary or fun for us to use or download. So your presentation could just be all three of the individuals talking. You don't necessarily need to put together a PowerPoint presentation. It's entirely up to you to do so or not. You may want to, put together a couple slides and say, oh, here are the people in the group. Here's why we created this app. Here's a couple screenshots of it. That's perfectly fine to do that, but that's entirely up to you. You don't have to do that. And like I said, those 2 days, the 27th and 29th, will be set up where basically you're going to put your fine touches on all the work you've put together with the app. So again, if you didn't submit app 3 when it was due last night, make sure you go ahead and get that to me ASAP. For this week, all you have to do is homework 6. Again, simple response with your couple sentences to that. So if there are no questions, that's all I had for today. If not, I will
So
see everybody Wednesday. Yep, we have a question.
for the back button, would you use a image view for that, like, button?
For the backdrop, you mean?
The back button, like going back, like you want to go back to the other screen. Would you
Oh,
use an
yes.
image
So
view?
we're going to work on that on Wednesday. We'll set up, it'll have like a button here, in essence, and you would click that and you would go back from here. We have the activity payment screen. It would allow you, when you click that, to go back to the initial screen, the activity main. So we're going to work on that in class on Wednesday this week.
I was saying if we would use an image view for it, like, or it would be.
Yeah, you
Uh,
could use it. Yep. So for example, you might have an app where, let's just use an example here. On your initial display, your activity underscore main, you might have like 7 baseball cards. And you have it set up where when you click each of the baseball cards, it goes to a secondary screen that'll display like, oh, this is the year it's from, this is the price, etc. You would be able to have or create a back button to go back to the initial screen so you could click through each time. So yeah, If you wanted to do that within your app that you create, you could do that. It doesn't have to be more than one screen. You could just have it be one screen, which would be your activity underscore main.xml. But you might have, 8 different screens you might want to make. That's entirely up to you and your group members. And when we go through that on Wednesday to show you how to create those back buttons, you would simply just utilize that within your own code. It could be as simple as this one with just 2 screens. So that's entirely up to you. Like I said, these don't have to be overly complicated. Just the idea is to utilize the skills that I've taught you to kind of create a basic app and then just kind of talk about, like, oh, this is why I did it. A couple of you have mentioned like gaming apps that you like within some of your responses. So you might just have your app be something like the card thing I mentioned, where like you have, 6 games listed and you click each 6 and it goes to a different screen that'll display, the year it was first put out, how much it costs, etc. And ideally, again, you would want to have a back button to go back from that screen back to the initial screen instead of having to continue to rerun the app. So that's why we're going to cover that in class on Wednesday. Are there any other questions? No? All right. Well, I bid everybody adieu, and I will see everybody on Wednesday. Enjoy the rest of your day, and make sure you go out and vote tomorrow if you haven't already.
All right, sir. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Sure, I just have a question about app 6, on app 6, excuse me, app 3, whenever you
Okay.
get a chance. Could you just check my email? I kind of explained the situation.
Yeah, you're going to submit it late. So, like I said, just go ahead and email me the main activity code and a screenshot of the images.
The problem is actually pulling up the images itself, because when I try to do it, it just shows up as a single image. Okay.
Okay.
It comes out as a single image that it's too expanded. How can I say? I
So
can't.
go ahead and do what we did for app 2 instead then. Just like open up Microsoft Paint
Okay. Yeah, I
and
remember.
put the
All right, I
image
can do that.
there. And instead of like, just a random message, put what you have as your toast message from the main activity file.
Okay, I can do that.
All right. So again, make sure you get that to me as soon as possible. So whether it be tonight at 8 o'clock, whatever, get it to me as soon as you can.
I will, Professor. Thank you.
All right. Have a good day.
You too.